We're moving my parents into your house next week. My son-in-law Brandon didn't ask. He announced it like I'm the hired help. I'm standing in my own kitchen holding my morning coffee, and this 34-year-old walks in without knocking and delivers that line like he's doing me a favor. I could have exploded, could have thrown him out right then. Instead, I smiled. Not a friendly smile. The kind of smile you get when someone hands you exactly the ammunition you need to teach them a lesson they'll never forget. Because Brandon Mitchell has no idea who he's talking to. He sees a 62-year-old man in work boots and a Carhartt jacket. What he doesn't see is the Forbes magazine sitting in my den with my face on the cover. But here's what he doesn't know about his poor old father-in-law living in the woods. 3 years. That's how long I've tolerated Brandon calling me Pops, like I'm his personal maintenance man. 3 years of him making jokes about Sarah's dad who lives like a hermit. 3 years of him treating my home like his personal vacation rental. 3 years of watching him pat my shoulder with that condescending smile and ask if I need help with anything around the house. What Brandon sees when he looks at me, a simple retiree with a 2018 Ford F-150, wearing work clothes, living alone, in what he calls my little cabin in the woods. What Brandon doesn't see, the $2.1 million smart home system hidden behind those rustic wood panels, the Tesla Model S parked in the back garage, the reason I bought 485 acres in Aspen for $12.3 million cash. See, I live modestly by choice, not necessity. When I retired from Summit Tech Solutions 2 months ago, I could have bought a mansion in Beverly Hills, could have gotten the penthouse in Manhattan, could have done what every other tech billionaire does, shown off my wealth like a peacock. Instead, I bought this mountain, built my dream home to look like a simple cabin from the outside, because real wealth doesn't need to announce itself. But Brandon, he's never understood subtlety. Last Christmas, he actually suggested I apply for senior assistance programs. Pops, there's no shame in getting help. You've worked hard your whole life, like I'm some charity case who can't afford heating bills. The heating bill for this place runs $3,000 a month. The security system alone costs more than most people's cars. Every appliance is top of the line, hidden behind custom cabinetry that looks like it came from a frontier cabin. Brandon walks through my home and sees what he expects to see. A poor old man who got lucky buying property before prices went crazy. He's never wondered why the Wi-Fi password is Summit Tech 2024. Never asked why I have a dedicated office with 3 monitors and a setup that would make Google engineers jealous. He's too busy feeling superior. Like when he brought his golf buddies over last summer. I'm grilling burgers on my deck, and he's giving them the tour. This is Sarah's dad, David. He's got the whole mountain man thing going on. Simple life, you know. Sometimes I think he's got the right idea. Living off the grid like this. Off the grid. With my $200,000 generator system and satellite internet that runs faster than most office buildings. But I let him talk. Let him play the generous son-in-law who tolerates his wife's eccentric father. Let him think he's doing me favors by visiting. Because here's what I learned. In 30 years of building technology companies, sometimes the most powerful position is letting people underestimate you. Brandon's been underestimating me since the day he married my daughter Sarah, treating me like I'm lucky to be included in family dinners, acting like he's the successful one in the family, with his golf club memberships and his BMW lease. What's funny is that BMW payment, $437 a month. I know because Sarah mentioned it once, worried about their budget. I spend more than that on coffee beans. The property taxes on this land alone are $68,000 a year. The insurance, another $42,000. The maintenance on a place this size? We're talking 6 figures annually, and that's with me doing most of the work myself, because I enjoy it. Brandon thinks I do my own repairs because I can't afford contractors. 3 years of this. 3 years of biting my tongue when he parks in my driveway like he owns the place. 3 years of listening to him explain basic financial concepts to me at family dinners. 3 years of watching him scroll through his phone while I'm talking, like my stories about the old days aren't worth his attention. Those old days built the company Google just bought for $923 million. But Brandon doesn't read Forbes, doesn't follow tech news, doesn't know that Summit Tech Solutions was the quiet giant in data analytics that every major corporation relied on. He knows I used to work in computers, and that's enough for him. So when he walks into my kitchen this morning and announces he's moving his parents into my house, he's not seeing the tech founder who revolutionized enterprise data systems. He's seeing the old man he can boss around, the old man who's about to teach him the difference between real wealth and the appearance of success. Why do I live so modestly? Because when you've built something that matters, you don't need to prove it to everyone who walks through your door. But sometimes, someone pushes you just far enough. that you decide to show them exactly who they're dealing with. The call that changed everything came 3 days later. I'm in my office reviewing some final transition documents. From the Google acquisition when my phone rings, Brandon's name on the caller ID. Hey Pops, just wanted to give you the details. About my parents coming to stay. Normal conversation, polite even. Then I hear voices in the background. Hold on, let me put you on speaker. The guys want to hear about your place. That should have been my first warning. Okay Pops, you're on speaker here at the club. I was just telling everyone about how you're going to love having house guests. Finally, some company in that little cabin of yours. Laughter in the background. Rich. Entitled laughter from men who've never built anything in their lives. Yeah, Pops. The guys here think it's hilarious that you're finally going to have people to cook for again. Like having a purpose. You know? More laughter. One of his friends chimes in. Brandon, make sure he doesn't try to charge you rent. These old guys can get weird about money. The whole table erupts. Brandon's laughing hardest of all. Don't worry, Brandon says, his voice carrying that tone you use when talking about a slightly embarrassing relative. Pops knows we're family. Besides, what's he going to do? Evict us? I'm listening to this, sitting in my 1,200 square foot office, with my 3-monitor setup and my wall of awards from the tech industry, listening to my son-in-law mock me to his golf buddies. The funny thing is, Brandon continues, warming to his audience, he acts all independent, but Sarah sends him money every month. Guy's too proud to admit he needs help, so we just slip it into his account quietly. My grip tightens on the phone. Sarah doesn't send me money. What Sarah does is transfer money from my account to cover her mortgage payments. Has been for 2 years, since Brandon lost his job, and decided unemployment was a sabbatical to find his passion. But Brandon doesn't know that. He thinks the money appears in their account, because Sarah's generous with her poor dad. Honestly, Brandon says, I think this will be good for him. My parents are social people. They'll get him out of the house, maybe help him budget better. Dad's always saying Pops needs to learn to live within his means. Another voice. How big is this cabin anyway? Oh, it's decent size. Probably 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. Nothing fancy, but it's got that rustic charm, you know. No central air, but there's a wood fireplace. Very authentic. They're describing my home like it's a quaint bed and breakfast. 3 bedrooms. Try 7 bedrooms and 8 bathrooms. No central air. The climate control system in this house costs more than most people's cars and maintains perfect temperature in every room. But the worst part is coming. The best part, Brandon says, his voice dropping, like he's sharing a secret, is that Pops thinks this whole thing was his idea. I just mentioned that my parents needed a place to stay for a few weeks, and he immediately offered. So generous, you know. Really shows his character. I never offered anything. He announced they were moving in. Brandon, one of his friends says, your father-in-law sounds like a good guy. Little out of touch, maybe, but good-hearted. Oh, he is. Just needs some guidance sometimes. Living alone up there, he gets these weird ideas about property values and thinks his place is worth more than it is. I keep telling him, Dad, location matters, but square footage and amenities are what really drive price. Brandon is giving real estate advice to me about my own property. The property I bought for $12.3 million because it includes mineral rights, water rights, and sits on what will be the most valuable undeveloped land in Colorado within 5 years. Anyway, Brandon concludes, should be fun. My parents love playing cards, so maybe they can teach Pop some new games. Keep him busy. I hang up. For 5 minutes, I just sit there, staring at my computer screen where the final Google acquisition documents are displayed. $923 million. Then I open a new browser window and navigate to Airbnb. If Brandon wants to talk about property values, square footage, and amenities, let's talk about property values. I spend the next hour researching comparable rentals in the area. Uncertainty now arranged in luxury mountain homes in Aspen, properties with similar acreage and amenities. The average nightly rate for a property like mine, $73 per night. That's fair market value. That's what strangers pay to stay in homes like this. But Brandon and his parents aren't strangers. They're family. Family gets a discount, right? So I list the guest wing of my home on Airbnb. Professional photos I had taken for insurance purposes. Detailed description of amenities. Competitive pricing, $73 per night. Weekly and monthly discounts available. The listing goes live at 11:47 p.m. By midnight, I have 3 booking requests from actual strangers wanting to pay money to stay in my little cabin. I decline them all. I'm saving the space for special guests. What was my breaking point? The moment my son-in-law put me on speakerphone to mock me to his country club friends. The moment he described my generosity as his own clever manipulation. That's when I opened my laptop and started typing. That night, I made 3 phone calls that would change everything. First call, My attorney, Elizabeth Brown. She's been handling my legal affairs since I started Summit Tech. Sharp, thorough, and she doesn't ask unnecessary questions. David, it's almost midnight. This better be important. Elizabeth, I need a landlord-tenant agreement drawn up. Standard terms? Market rate rental? 30-day notice provisions? You buying more property? No. I'm renting out part of my existing property. To family members. Pause. David, are you feeling okay? Never better. I'll email you the details. I need this by tomorrow afternoon. Market rate for your place would be $73 per night. I've done the research. Another pause. I'll have it ready by noon. Elizabeth knows me well enough to know when I'm dead serious. She also knows my track record for making decisions that seem crazy until they prove brilliant. Second call. My accountant, Janet Davis. Yes, the same Janet Davis who's now HOA president. I've known her since she was fresh out of college, and I hired her as Summit Tech's first financial officer. Janet, sorry to call late. I need a favor. David, you know I'm always happy to help. What's going on? I'm about to have some rental income to report. Might be complicated. How complicated? Family rental, market rate, possible non-payment issues. Janet laughs. David, what are you up to? Justice. I'll send you the details tomorrow. Third call. I don't make it. I draft an email instead. To sarah.wilson@gmail.com. From dwilsonsummitx.com. Subject, Family Matters. Sent 2:47 a.m. Sarah, your husband informed me via speakerphone at his golf club that you've been sending me money every month because I need financial assistance. He seemed to find this very amusing. I think it's time you knew where that money actually comes from. Check your bank statements. Every gift you thought you were sending me was actually a transfer from my account to yours. I've been covering your mortgage payments for 2 years. Your husband lost his job 26 months ago. You never told me, but I figured it out when the payment patterns changed. I didn't say anything because I thought you'd ask for help when you were ready. Instead, Brandon convinced you that you were helping your poor old father. We need to talk, but first, I have some business to handle. Love, Dad. P.S. Google bought Summit Tech Solutions for $923 million. The sale closed 2 weeks ago. I was waiting for the right time to tell you. Send. I lean back in my office chair and look around at the space Brandon thinks doesn't exist. Awards from the tech industry covering one wall. Patents with my name on them framed above my desk. A signed photo from the Google executives, who just made me one of the richest men in Colorado. Tomorrow, Gerald and Patricia Mitchell are moving into my home. Nice people. I've met them several times at family dinners. Retired teachers from Ohio. They raised an entitled son, unfortunately, but they themselves are decent folk. They have no idea what their son has been saying about me. They have no idea that their son thinks they're doing me a favor by staying in my little cabin. They have no idea that their visit is about to become the most expensive education in family dynamics they've ever received. I open the Airbnb listing one more time. 7-bedroom mountain estate. Luxury amenities, stunning views, perfect for family retreats. $73 per night. I add a note to the house rules. Payment due upon check-in. No exceptions. Then I create a document I title Welcome Gift. It's going to be a comprehensive package. Airbnb booking confirmation, house rules and regulations, payment schedule, property information, and a few surprises that will help everyone understand exactly where they stand. Because if Brandon wants to play landlord with my property, if he wants to make decisions about who stays where and for how long, then he's about to learn what a real landlord looks like. I've been in business for 30 years. I've negotiated with Fortune 500 companies. I've built partnerships and dissolved them. I've managed budgets bigger than some countries' GDP. Brandon thinks he's dealing with a confused old man who doesn't understand property values. He's about to discover he's dealing with someone who just redefined property values for the entire data analytics industry. What's in those documents I'm preparing? Everything Brandon should have asked about before he assumed he could walk into my home and start giving orders. Every detail he should have researched before putting me on speakerphone to mock me to his golf buddies. Every piece of information he would have discovered if he'd treated me with basic respect instead of dismissing me as irrelevant. Tomorrow, the education begins. Moving day arrived right on schedule. Gerald and Patricia Mitchell pulled up in their 12-year-old Honda Civic at exactly 2 p.m., followed by Brandon in his leased BMW. They looked around at my property with obvious appreciation. David, this is absolutely beautiful, Patricia said, getting out of the car and stretching. Thank you so much for letting us stay. Brandon showed us photos, but they don't do it justice, Gerald added. This must have cost a fortune to build. Brandon cut in quickly. Dad, remember what we talked about? Pops is sensitive about money. I smiled. Actually, let's talk about money right now. I have something for you. I handed Patricia a manila folder. Your welcome gift. She opened it with the excited curiosity of someone expecting maybe local restaurant recommendations or hiking trail maps. Instead, she found an official Airbnb booking confirmation. Aspen Mountain Luxury Retreat, she read aloud. 7 nights, $73 per night, plus cleaning fees and taxes. Total $500. Gerald looked confused. David, what is this? Your reservation confirmation. Payment is due at check-in per house rules. The color drained from Brandon's face. Pops, what are you doing? I opened the second folder, House Rules and Regulations. Quiet hours are 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. No smoking anywhere on the property. Maximum occupancy, 2 guests in the assigned accommodation area. Damages will be charged separately. Patricia looked at her son. Brandon, I thought you said your father-in-law offered to let us stay for free. He did. Brandon's voice cracked slightly. Pops, this is family. You can't charge family rent. I pulled out the third folder, the big one. You're absolutely right, Brandon. Family is different. Family gets honesty. I handed him my property deed. He opened it reluctantly, started reading. I watched his face as the numbers sank in. Purchase price, I said calmly. $12.3 million paid in cash, no mortgage. Gerald whistled low. $12 million, David. This place is worth $12 million more now. Property values in this area have increased 18% since I bought it 2 years ago. Brandon was still staring at the deed. This has to be a mistake. No mistake. Would you like to see the bank records? I keep everything well documented. I pulled out folder number 4. Bank statement. Account balance, $23.7 million. Plus, investment portfolio summary showing another $41.2 million in diversified holdings. Patricia sat down hard on my front steps. Gerald looked at the paperwork, then at me, then at his son. Brandon, what exactly did you tell us? About David's financial situation? Brandon was sweating now. He lives so simply. I thought... You thought what? I asked, my voice still perfectly calm. I thought you were struggling. You dress like... You drive that old truck. You never spend money on anything. I spend money on things that matter. This property, the best security system available. Solar panels that make this place completely energy independent. A workshop that would make professional contractors jealous. I gestured to the house behind me. What you see as a simple cabin is actually a 7-bedroom, 8-bath custom home with radiant floor heating, central air, a wine cellar, and smart home integration throughout. The rustic look is a design choice, not a budget constraint. Patricia found her voice. David, why didn't you ever mention? Because I don't need to announce my net worth. To feel valuable, unlike some people. I looked directly at Brandon. Brandon, you want to know the really interesting part? That money Sarah's been sending me every month to help with my expenses. Check your bank records. Every penny comes from my account to yours. I've been covering your mortgage for 2 years. His mouth opened and closed like a fish. Sarah never told me you lost your job. She was too proud to ask for help directly, so I helped quietly, the way family should. I picked up my phone and showed him the screen. 12 missed calls from Sarah since midnight. She got my email about the Google acquisition. She's been trying to reach you all morning. Brandon grabbed his phone. Sure enough, 12 missed calls, 8 text messages. Google acquisition? Gerald asked. I handed him the final folder. Forbes magazine. My face on the cover. Local tech founder sells company for record $923 million. The silence stretched for 30 seconds. Finally, Patricia spoke. David, I am so sorry. Brandon told us you were having financial difficulties. He said you offered to let us stay because you needed the company. I never offered anything. He announced you were moving in and I could take the guest room. Gerald turned to his son. Brandon, is that true? I thought... What did you think? I asked. That you could walk into my home and start giving orders? That you could put me on speakerphone to mock me to your golf friends? That you could treat me like hired help in my own house? Brandon's lawyer friend from Denver chose that moment to pull up. In his Porsche. Great timing, I said. Brandon, is this the attorney you mentioned? The one who was going to sue me into the ground? The lawyer got out of his car, took one look at the Forbes magazine in Gerald's hands, and went pale. Oh no. Brandon, please tell me you didn't try to threaten David Wilson. The David Wilson? Brandon looked confused. Oh, what's Summit Tech Solutions? The lawyer stared at him. Summit Tech Solutions revolutionized enterprise data analytics. Every major corporation in America uses their systems. Google just bought them for nearly $1 billion. Your father-in-law is one of the most successful tech entrepreneurs in Colorado. He looked at me apologetically. Mr. Wilson, I am so sorry. I had no idea Brandon was talking about you when he called. I thought this was about some landlord dispute. I smiled, my quietest smile. Oh, it is about a landlord dispute. I'm the landlord. Brandon here seems to think he can make decisions about my property without consulting me. What happens when they refuse to pay? That's when things got really interesting. 2 days later, Brandon came back, this time with reinforcements. His lawyer friend plus 2 other guys in expensive suits, the kind of men who think law degrees automatically make them right. I was in my workshop when they pulled up. Through the security cameras, I watched them march up to my door, like they were serving a warrant. I let them knock twice before I answered. "Pops," Brandon said, trying to sound authoritative. "We need to talk." "Of course, come in." They filed into my living room. The lawyer I'd met before, plus 2 new faces. One introduced himself as a real estate attorney. The other claimed to be a family law specialist. Brandon had assembled a legal team to intimidate me. "Mr. Wilson," the real estate lawyer began, "my client has informed me that you're attempting to charge family members rent for staying in your home. This could constitute elder exploitation." I poured myself coffee from the machine. "That cost more than his monthly salary." "Elder exploitation. Interesting theory." "Furthermore," the family law specialist chimed in, "forcing elderly relatives to pay market rates could be seen as financial abuse of your son-in-law's parents." "Could be seen by whom?" "Adult Protective Services, for starters." I nodded thoughtfully. "And what would Adult Protective Services say about a man with a net worth of $65 million being accused of elder exploitation for charging market rates for luxury accommodations?" The lawyers exchanged glances. "Mr. Wilson," Brandon's original lawyer friend said carefully, when we spoke before, I may have misunderstood your situation. Could you clarify your current financial status?" I walked to my desk and pulled out a file. "Certainly. Summit Tech Solutions sold to Google Corporation for $923 million. Personal net worth after taxes and diversification, approximately $65 million. Current liquid assets, $23.7 million. I handed them the Forbes article. "I own 14 other properties in Colorado. Total real estate portfolio value, $41.2 million. And I have a legal team on retainer that includes former federal prosecutors and Supreme Court clerks." The real estate attorney was reading the Forbes article with growing alarm. "Mr. Wilson, I think there's been a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding. Your client wants to use my property without compensation. When I requested fair market rate, he decided to threaten me with legal action." I looked at Brandon. "Brandon, do you remember what you said to me on the phone? What's he going to do? Evict us?" "That was your exact words." Brandon shifted uncomfortably. "Well," I continued, "since you asked so directly, let me answer. Yes, I can evict you. I can also sue for unpaid rent, property damage, and harassment. I can have you trespassed from my land. I can make your life very, very complicated." The family law specialist cleared his throat. "Mr. Wilson, surely we can resolve this as family. Family resolves things with respect and communication. This," I gestured to their legal delegation, "is intimidation or attempted intimidation." I walked to my window and pointed outside. "See those cameras? This entire property is under surveillance. Every conversation, every interaction, everything that happens here is recorded, including Brandon's announcement that he was moving his parents in without asking." The original lawyer was already backing toward the door. "Gentlemen, I think we should leave." "Wait," I said. "Since you're here, let me mention something interesting. I own more rental properties than any other single landlord in Aspen County. I know housing law better than most attorneys. I know tenant rights, landlord obligations, and eviction procedures." I smiled at Brandon. "Maybe you should have asked about my background before you called your lawyer friends." The family law specialist was studying his shoes. "Also, just so we're clear, those elderly relatives you're so concerned about. They paid their bill yesterday, $511 cash. They apologized profusely and said they had no idea their son had misrepresented the situation." Brandon's face went red. "My parents paid you? Your parents are decent people who understand that lodging costs money, unlike their son. What other properties?" That's about to become very relevant. This is about to get interesting. By Thursday morning, Brandon had launched his social media campaign. Facebook post at 6:43 a.m., struggling with a difficult family situation. When elderly relatives start making unreasonable financial demands, how do you handle it? Family first, elderly rights, prayers needed. 67 likes, 23 comments, all supportive. Second post at 9:15 a.m. Update on family situation, considering Adult Protective Services involvement. Sometimes you have to protect people from their own poor decisions. Tough love, Chaucer family matters. 92 likes, 41 comments. People sharing their own stories about difficult elderly relatives. Third post at 1:22 p.m. Amazing how money changes people. My father-in-law is trying to charge my retired parents rent to stay in his house. These are people who gave everything for their children, and now they're being treated like tenants. Heartbreaking toss. Respect your elders. 138 likes, 67 comments, 3 shares. I screenshot everything. Then I checked the neighborhood app. Next door was buzzing. Brandon had posted there too. Warning to neighbors, commercial rental activity in residential area. David Wilson at 1247 Pine Ridge Road is operating an unlicensed boarding house and charging family members rent. Possible zoning violations. He tagged our HOA president, Janet Davis. Janet texted me within minutes. David, what's going on? Brandon Mitchell is claiming you're violating residential zoning. I texted back, can you meet me for coffee? I'll explain everything. We met at the local cafe at 4 p.m. Janet brought the HOA complaint. Brandon had filed. David, this is serious. If you're operating a commercial business out of your home without proper permits. I handed her the Airbnb listing printout. 1 guest accommodation, occasional rental, well within residential guidelines. I checked the county regulations before I listed it. Janet read through the posting. $73 a night seems reasonable for a place like yours. It's exactly average for comparable properties. So who complained? My son-in-law. He's upset that I'm charging his parents fair market rate instead of letting them stay for free. Janet raised an eyebrow. Humsey, he filed an HOA complaint because you won't give his parents free lodging? Apparently. She closed the file. David, this isn't an HOA matter. This is family drama. I agree, but Brandon's making it public. I showed her the Facebook posts on my phone. He's painting me as an elderly man who's lost touch with reality, claims I'm financially exploiting his parents. Janet read through the posts, her expression growing more concerned. David, some of these comments are pretty harsh. People are talking about reporting you to Adult Protective Services. Let them report me. A 5-minute financial background check will end that conversation. Still, this could damage your reputation in the community. I leaned back in my chair. Janet, how long have you known me? 15 years since I started doing your books. At Summit Tech. Have you ever known me to make a decision without thinking it through? She smiled. Never. You're the most methodical person I know. Then trust me, this is going to resolve itself. How? Community meeting next week. Brandon's demanding a hearing about my zoning violations. I think that's an excellent idea. Janet looked worried. David, are you sure? You want this aired publicly? Janet, do you remember what happened? The last time someone publicly challenged my business decisions? She thought for a moment, then started laughing. The Peterson Industries contract. They claimed publicly that Summit Tech couldn't deliver. You invited them to present their concerns at the industry conference, and you demolished them so thoroughly. They apologized in writing and doubled their contract. This situation is similar. David, what aren't you telling me? I pulled out my phone and showed her the Forbes article. Google bought Summit Tech for $923 million. The sale closed 3 weeks ago. Janet stared at the screen. 900. David, you're a billionaire. Not quite, but comfortable. She was still staring. And Brandon thinks you're struggling financially. Brandon thinks a lot of things, most of them wrong. Oh my God. David, when this comes out at the community meeting, when this comes out, people will understand exactly who's been making poor decisions. I finished my coffee. Brandon wants a public hearing about my character and financial judgment. I think the community deserves to hear all the facts. This is going to backfire spectacularly on him. That's the idea. How will the community react at the meeting? That's about to become very, very clear. This is about to backfire spectacularly. Friday morning, I did what I've always done. When facing a challenge, I gathered data. Professional habit. 30 years in tech teaches you that information is power, but organized information is victory. I started with the security footage. My system records everything in 4K resolution with audio. Every conversation, every interaction, every moment since Brandon first announced his parents were moving in. 23 days of material. I created a timeline. Day 1, Brandon's announcement in my kitchen. His exact words, "We're moving my parents into your house next week." No request, no discussion. Day 4, the speaker phone call to his golf buddies. Audio quality is perfect. Every word of mockery, every laugh at my expense, every assumption about my financial situation. Day 12, his parents' arrival, their genuine surprise at the Airbnb booking, their immediate payment without complaint. Day 14, Brandon's return with his legal team, their attempted intimidation tactics, their retreat when they realized who they were dealing with. Day 23, today, the social media campaign in full swing. Next, I compiled financial documentation, bank statements showing the Google acquisition payment, $923 million less taxes, legal fees, and transition costs. Net deposit, $612 million. Property purchase records, $12.3 million for the Aspen property. Cash payment, no financing. Investment portfolio summary, $41.2 million in diversified holdings managed by Goldman Sachs Private Wealth Division. Monthly expenses documentation. Property taxes, insurance, utilities, maintenance. Average monthly outflow, $37,000. Sarah's mortgage assistance records, 26 months of payments, $1,400 monthly. Total assistance provided, $62,400. Brandon's unemployment timeline, 26 months. Exactly correlating with the mortgage assistance. Then I documented the damages. Security footage showing Brandon's parents smoking. Inside the house despite clear no smoking policies. Timestamp 3:47 p.m., day 16. Photographs of the Persian rug stain. Red wine. Professional cleaning estimate, $450. Broken antique door handle in the guest bathroom. Replacement cost, $400. Utility bill comparisons. Normal monthly electric usage, 1,240 quad hours. Usage during guest stay, 4,020 quad hours, a 240% increase. Water usage normal monthly, 3,200 G. Guest month, 100 G, 153% increase. Heating costs, normal monthly propane usage, 180 gram. Guest month, 410 G, 128% increase. I created spreadsheets. Professional quality, the kind I used to present to Fortune 500 boards. Total unpaid rent, 23 days at $73 daily, $1,679. Late fees per rental agreement, $50 per day after 7-day grace period. 16 days of late fees, $800. Property damage, $850. Additional utilities, $147. Grand total owed, $4,476. But that wasn't the big number. The big number came from what happened at Summit Tech Solutions. I pulled out the company's final valuation report, the document Google's acquisition team used to justify their purchase price. Summit Tech Solutions, founded in my garage in 1994, had become the invisible backbone of modern business intelligence. 93% of Fortune 500 companies used our data analytics platforms. Our algorithms processed 2.4 billion transactions daily. Our client list read like a who's who of global commerce. When Google bought us, they weren't just buying software. They were buying 30 years of innovation, 847 patents, exclusive data sets worth billions, and a client relationship network that couldn't be replicated. The purchase price broke down like this. Core technology assets, $247 million. Patent portfolio, $168 million. Client contracts and relationships, $391 million. Data archives and proprietary algorithms, $117 million. Total, $923 million. For a company I started with $12,000 in borrowed money and an idea about making business data more useful. Brandon thinks I'm out of touch with financial reality. I revolutionized how businesses understand their own financial reality. But here's what I learned in 3 decades of business. The most powerful information is often the most quietly held. The most successful companies don't announce their advantages until they're ready to use them. The most successful people let others underestimate them, right up until the moment they reveal exactly what they're capable of. I printed everything. Bank statements, property records, damage documentation, utility bills, security footage screenshots, company valuation reports, Forbes articles, patent filings, client testimonials, asking for 237 pages of evidence. Monday's community meeting was going to be educational. What's the final dollar amount? That depends on how you calculate the value of respect. Monday night, Aspen Meadows Community Center, 7 p.m. sharp. The room was packed. Word had spread through the neighborhood faster than wildfire. Everyone wanted to see the elderly man, who was allegedly exploiting his own family. I arrived 15 minutes early and sat in the back row. Khaki pants, button-down shirt, work boots, the same clothes I'd worn to build fences and fix plumbing for 30 years. Brandon arrived at 6:55 with an entourage. Sarah was with him, looking uncomfortable. His parents weren't there. Smart choice on their part. The room buzzed with whispered conversations. I caught fragments. That's him. The one charging his own family. Seems like such a quiet guy. My daughter says he's always been a little odd. Janet Davis called the meeting to order. We're here to address concerns raised by Brandon Mitchell regarding alleged zoning violations at 1247 Pine Ridge Road. Brandon stood up, smoothed his tie, and walked to the podium like he was accepting an award. Thank you, Janet. Friends and neighbors, I appreciate you coming out tonight. This isn't easy for me. He looked around the room with practiced sincerity. Many of you know my wife Sarah and me. We've been part of this community for 3 years. We love it here. Murmurs of support. What you might not know is that Sarah's father, David Wilson has been struggling lately, making some concerning decisions. He gestured toward me. 3 weeks ago, my retired parents came to visit. They're 71 and 73 years old, teachers their whole lives, good people who raised me to respect family and community. More supportive murmurs. David offered to let them stay with him. We thought it was wonderful company for him, a nice vacation for them. His voice dropped, becoming more dramatic. Then he presented them with a bill, $73 a night, for family, for my elderly parents. The room shifted uncomfortably. Someone in the front row shook their head. Oh. When I tried to discuss this with him, he became aggressive, started talking about market rates and rental agreements. He's treating my parents like strangers. Brandon paused for effect. I've filed a complaint about possible zoning violations. Is he running a business out of his home? Are there proper permits? He looked directly at me. But honestly, that's not why I called this meeting. I'm worried about David. This behavior isn't normal. Charging family members rent, making unreasonable demands. I think he might need help. The sympathy in the room was palpable. Several people were nodding. I don't want to embarrass him, but sometimes families have to make tough decisions. Sometimes we have to step in. Brandon returned to his seat to supportive applause. Janet looked at me. David, would you like to respond? I stood up slowly, walked to the podium with a single manila folder. The room was completely silent. Thank you for coming tonight. Brandon's right about one thing. This isn't easy. I opened the folder and pulled out a single sheet of paper. Forbes magazine, October 15th, 2024. I held it up so everyone could see the cover. Local tech founder sells company for record $923 million. The silence deepened. Summit Tech Solutions, the company I built from my garage 30 years ago. Google bought us 3 weeks ago for $923 million. You could hear a pin drop. Brandon says I'm struggling financially. Let me clarify my financial situation. I pulled out a bank statement. Kisi, current liquid assets, $23.7 million. Real estate portfolio, $41.2 million. Total net worth, approximately $65 million. Someone in the middle of the room gasped. Brandon says I offered to let his parents stay for free. That's incorrect. I pulled out my phone and connected it to the room's audio system. This is a recording from my security system. Brandon's announcement 3 weeks ago. His voice filled the room. We're moving my parents into your house next week. I stopped the recording. No request, no discussion. An announcement. I played the next clip. This is Brandon putting me on speakerphone. At his golf club. The room listened to Brandon mocking me to his friends. The laughter, the jokes about making sure I don't charge rent. The comments about me needing company and purpose. When it ended, the silence was deafening. Brandon says he's concerned about my decision-making. Let me share some of my recent decisions. I pulled out more documents. Sarah and Brandon's mortgage has been behind for 26 months. I've been making their payments $2,400 monthly. Total assistance, $63,400. I looked at Brandon. Sarah thought she was sending me money to help with my expenses. Actually, every payment came from my account to yours. You've been living off my charity for over 2 years. Brandon had gone white. Brandon lost his job 26 months ago. Same timeline. Sarah never told me directly. She was too proud to ask for help, so I helped quietly. I pulled out utility bills. During your parents' stay, my electricity usage increased 240%. Water usage up 153%. Heating costs up 128%. Security footage shows them smoking inside. Despite clear no smoking policies, I displayed photographs of the damages. Persian rug stain, $450. Professional cleaning. Broken antique hardware, $400 replacement. Total property damage, $850. The crowd was riveted. Unpaid rent for 23 days, $1,679. Late fees per signed agreement, $800. Additional utilities, $1,147. I looked around the room. Total amount owed, $4,476. Your parents paid their portion yesterday. With a handwritten apology, I pulled out the final document. Brandon filed a complaint about zoning violations. Here's my business license for occasional short-term rental. Fully compliant with county regulations. Janet Davis stood up. David, I owe you an apology. I had no idea about your situation. Janet, you've known me for 15 years. You handled Summit textbooks when we were just 5 employees working out of a converted warehouse. Recognition dawned on several faces in the room. Oh my God, someone whispered. Summit Tech? I remember when they went public. That was you? That was me. I looked at Brandon, who seemed to be shrinking in his chair. Brandon, you want to talk about family values? Family means respect. Family means honesty. Family means not putting people on speakerphone to mock them to strangers. I closed my folder. I'm donating $50,000 to our community center's renovation fund in Gerald and Patricia Mitchell's name as an apology for their son's behavior toward a neighbor who's been nothing but generous to their family. The room erupted in applause. Brandon, I continued, my voice carrying over the noise. You wanted a public discussion? About my judgment and financial decision-making. Well, we've had it. I looked around the packed room. Any questions about my mental competency? Or my right to charge market rates for luxury accommodations? Silence. Then this meeting is adjourned. As I walked toward the exit, people stood up. Some applauded, others just stared. Brandon remained seated, staring at his hands. Sarah caught up with me in the parking lot. Dad, I'm so sorry. I had no idea he was saying those things about you. I know, sweetheart. The mortgage payments. I thought I wanted to help. I just wish you'd felt comfortable asking directly. She hugged me tightly. Dad, can we start over? We never stopped being family, Sarah, but some boundaries needed to be established. Brandon appeared behind her, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. David, Mr. Wilson, I looked at him calmly. Brandon, respect isn't something you can demand, but it's definitely something you can learn to give. I got in my truck and drove home. As an apology for their son's behavior, the community had heard everything they needed to hear. Gerald and Patricia Mitchell moved out the next morning. They left an envelope on my kitchen counter with $476 in cash and a 3-page handwritten letter. David, we are mortified by our son's behavior. We had no idea he had misrepresented your generosity or spoken about you so disrespectfully. The money covers everything we owe, plus extra for the trouble we've caused. We understand if you never want to see us again. But please know that we raised Brandon better than this. We failed somewhere along the way. I called them that afternoon. Patricia, you and Gerald are welcome in my home anytime. What happened wasn't your fault, but Brandon is a grown man who made his own choices. You're not responsible for them. She cried a little. We talked for an hour about family, respect, and the difference between helping someone and enabling them. Brandon has been conspicuously quiet at family dinners ever since. He looks up when I speak now, says please and thank you, makes eye contact. Sarah finally understands why I live modestly. Despite having wealth, real wealth doesn't need to show off. It just shows up when needed. The Airbnb listing has been booked solid through next summer. 5-star reviews across the board. Guests love the humble millionaire's cabin story. Several have asked if they can meet the owner who taught his entitled son-in-law about respect. I tell them the story is not about teaching anyone anything. It's about establishing boundaries and expecting basic human decency. The community center renovation is ahead of schedule, thanks to what they're calling the Mitchell Family Endowment. Gerald and Patricia were honored at the groundbreaking ceremony. They deserved recognition for raising good people, who occasionally lose their way, but can find it again. Brandon found a job last month, marketing coordinator at a local ski resort. Not glamorous, but honest work with steady income. He's paying his own mortgage now. He still calls me Pops sometimes, but it sounds different, less condescending, more like actual affection. Funny thing about respect, you can't demand it, but you can definitely teach people how to give it. Sometimes the best gift you can give someone is the opportunity to learn who they really want to be. And sometimes that lesson costs exactly $4,476. We're moving my parents into your house next week. My son-in-law Brandon didn't ask. He announced it like I'm the hired help. I'm standing in my own kitchen holding my morning coffee, and this 34-year-old walks in without knocking and delivers that line like he's doing me a favor. I could have exploded, could have thrown him out right then.